الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Continuing with the discussion that we've been having under these verses from chapter 89, Surah Fajr, last 4 verses, in which we've been discussing the implementation of Nafs Mutma'inna, being the soul of Imam Hussein. And this whole surah, from the very beginning, is implemented, and ta'wil of the surah is done, that it is referring and discussing about the Ashur, the first 10 nights of Muharram, and towards the end it is referring towards Imam Hussein. And under that discussion we've been talking about the messages that we derive from the event of Ashura. As the reminder keeps on going every single night without forgetfulness, that yes, it is important for us to remember the tragedy as it took place and how it took place. But it is far more important for us to focus on why it took place. And for that purpose, we are talking about some of the lessons that we derive from the kalam of Imam and his companions, from the kalam of the ladies that accompanied Imam ﷺ onto this journey, as well as we looked at the actions that were performed by Imam and his companions, how they become lessons for us. And sometimes things that were not, or Imam or others did not present as a lesson or a message, but by looking at it historically, we can deduce lessons from it. So among those things is the historical lessons that are learned from Ashura. We look at that history is very important. And in history, there's no room for aql and intellect. You say, what does that mean? That means if I was to ask you, can you think and through your aql, tell me what Hazrat Sulaiman or what Hazrat Yaqub did? You say, no. It is not something which can be deduced and simplified or extracted from my aql. That has to refer to historical pages or the words or the books that are referring towards history. So you will look into the books of history to see what happened, what was the lifestyle of Hazrat Yaqub. You look into the history, what was the lifestyle of other prophets. Similarly, you will look into the books of history in reference to Ashura and Karbala and Imam Hussein. And we mentioned as well earlier that don't limit Muharram or Ashura to that one day when all of it happened. First of all, the understanding, especially for the kids, might be that because we have divided the Masaib each night for a different martyr. Does that mean they were martyred on those days? I think sometimes the kids grow up learning it that way. So for example, we did the Masayib of Hazrat Abbas last night. We're going to do the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Akbar tonight. We're going to do the Masayib of Hazrat Ali Asghar tomorrow. And we'll do the Masayib of Imam Hussain on the 10th. The reason is we're dividing because of the silsila of Majalis. But all of them died and were martyred on the same day. In fact, in one afternoon. The war was not a lengthy war from that aspect. If you look at other wars that Prophet and Masumeen attended, Amirul Mu'mineen attended with prophets, and those wars that took place in the life of Amirul Mu'mineen himself, took months before there was a result. But this tragedy of Karbala, and that's why we don't call it to be a battle of Karbala, because there was not lengthy amount of, battalions exchanging, their warriors, the way the dastur and the usul was back in the day, one-on-one fights. It did take place, but it did not take that long. It was just one afternoon where all of these individuals were martyred. So therefore, it actually adds on to the musibat of the household members. For a person like Imam Hussain to pick up the bodies of all of his companions one after another. And then once he's done with the picking up the bodies of the companions, now he has to worry about picking up the bodies of his family members, his children, his nephews, his brothers, and so on and so forth. So don't limit this Ashura to one day. It has roots. The same way it has repercussions till the day of judgment, that it is affecting us and it is relevant to us up until this day, and will remain relevant to us all the way till the end of the life. Similarly, Ashura was not a product which came about in a year or two. In fact, it has roots which date back to the time of Rasulullah. And therefore, we need to analyze it from that aspect. We need to look at as to where it began, where this movement started, how it started, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we need to look at the history of Islam. But instead of calling it to be the history of Islam, it would be better if we refer to as the history of Muslims. There's a huge difference between history of Islam than history of Muslims. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Bernard Shaw who said, Islam is the best religion. Muslims are the worst followers. Why? The religion has everything that it provides and is perfect. But the adherents are merely following it. In fact, others have taken more from this religion than the Muslims themselves. If you look at the history of Muslimin after Rasulullah, because we don't call the life of Rasulullah up until that time, we can call it to be the history of Islam. Why? Because Prophet is the head of the ummah. The Islam for which Prophet receives these verses, in Surah Ma'idah, if you read Surah Ma'idah, the initial verses talk about what? It says, Al-yawm ya'is al-lazina kafaru min dinikum. Today is the day kuffar are afraid of your religion. فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ وَخْشَوْنِي. Do not be scared of them, be scared of me. Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today I have completed this religion. Today I have perfected my favors upon you. Atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. Wa raditu lakum al-islam adina. And I have chosen this religion for you. So in Quran, Allah is saying that I have chosen this religion for you. Religion which Prophet brought it to its peak and its height. So when this ayat is being revealed, in Ghadir Khum, these are one of the last verses that are revealed. Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-islam adina. So there was a missing piece that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon Prophet, in fact when he bestowed upon all of Muslimin, now Allah is saying, yes, the religion is complete. The deen is mukammal, it's perfect, and there's nothing remaining in it as far as the naqs or defects. So what has happened at that event? So deen had become mukammal at that point. That deen which is considered to be mukammal and complete at that time, only 50 years later, we find that the same deen or the adherents of the same deen are doing dhulm on the grandson of Rasulullah. Why did it get complete? What was it that was missing from that piece? A lot of people gave different, explanations. But if you look at it, in the 10th year, Al-Ghadir Khum, when these ayat are being revealed, there's only one thing that is coming, which is completing this religion. It cannot be salat. Although salat is umududdin, it's the pillar of Islam. We talked and dedicated one whole majlis on salat, so I'm not going to touch upon that. Salat is umududdin. But it's not salat which is being revealed over here. Allah is saying, today I have completed my religion unto you and I have perfected my blessings upon you because I sent upon you this salat. No. Muslimin have been praying for the past 20-some years. It could not have been the Sawm of the month of Ramadan that has already been practiced for many, many years. It could not have been the wajib and the ibadat of Hajj. Muslimin are actually coming back from the performance of Hajj. They're on their way back from the performance of the Hajj. So it could not have been Hajj either. It could not have been any of those wajibat that have already been revealed. In fact, it could not have been a wajib, which is part of furu'id-din. It had to be something which is part of the principles and the roots in the principles and the usul of the religion. And therefore, Prophet is being bestowed what mercy today? That today I have appointed someone who will look after this religion when you're no longer here. The appointment of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam as the vicegerent, as the wazir of Rasulullah, which he has been mentioning throughout. Where the doubts raised and created when Prophet has been mentioning it throughout, today he's just announcing it publicly. A lot of people say, why didn't Prophet continuously announce? He actually did. He showed it through his actions. And this could not have been more obvious that on Ghadir Khum, only 70 days prior to his death, Prophet is announcing, and the way and the method, the way he's announcing it. He refers to an ayat of Quran which says that Nabi is awla bikum min anfusikum, that Prophet is above, he has guardianship over your own souls. Then he asks the people over there, Alastu awla bikum minkum bi anfusikum, am I not superior to you from your own souls? And everybody replied back, yes. Similar thing what Prophet had asked earlier in the days of Islam, is standing on that mountain, and the Ajiyad mountains, asking the kuffar, if I was to tell you there was a army behind these hills ready to attack you, will you believe in me? Everybody said, yes, you're Amin and you're Sadiq, we believe in you. Similarly today, everybody is saying, yes, you have authority over us. Right away, using these same similar lines, Prophet announces the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen over there. Yet, they believed in him on the day of Ghadir, but they forget about it on the day of Saqifa. And only 70-some days are in between these two events. So therefore, we need to look at the history from that aspect, that Ashura is not something which happened or which was a product, that began from the end of end of Rajab, when the Khalifa of the time had left this world, and Yazid started asking for the bayat of Imam Hussein and so on and so forth. That's when this whole propagation or this whole mission began. No, it actually began way, way before. All the way, roots go back all the way to Saqifa. In fact, one of the scholars of recent era, Ayatollah Isfahani, he very beautifully summarized the whole thing. He said, "Ma fama ramahu idh ramahu hurmula." I'll bring your attention towards an ayat of Quran. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the responsibility for the words of Rasulullah and the actions of Rasulullah. When Allah says, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Prophet doesn't say anything out of his own mouth. In fact, it is us who put it into his mouth in the form of wahi, and he speaks. So whatever comes out of the mouth of Rasul is wahi, is revelation. In fact, in other words, it's the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, at another occasion, Allah says, فَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. O Prophet, you weren't the ones throwing those pebbles. No, it was us throwing those pebbles. So for when it comes to the speech of Rasulullah, Allah is taking the responsibility. When it comes to the actions of Rasulullah, Allah is taking the responsibility. That's unfortunate that Prophet throughout his life kept on announcing the wilayat of Ali. And then on the day of Ghadir, he showed it to the world. Yet they did not believe in his words, nor in his actions. So فَمَا رَمَيْتَ, you did not throw. Similar words he used, Ayatollah Isfahani, in his speech, he said this, فَمَا رَمَاهُ إِذْ رَمَاهُ هُرْمُلَا. It wasn't Hurmula who shot that arrow towards Ali Asghar. فَمَا رَمَاهُ إِذْ رَمَاهُ هُرْمُلَا. It wasn't Hurmula when he shot that arrow towards Ali Asghar. Rather, وَإِنَّمَا رَمَاهُ مَنْ مَهَّدَهُ لَهُ. It was thrown by someone who prepared it for him. The one who gave it to him, the one who prepared it for him, the one who gave him that opportunity, go ahead and shoot it. And then he says, سَهْمٌ أَتَى مِنْ جَانِبِ السَّقِيفِ. In fact, if you look at the roots from it, it is the sahm, it is the arrow which is coming all the way from Saqifa. It's not a product of Karbala. It is actually something which was prepared back in Saqifa. So this is basically the background. The Prophet who has brought this religion to its height, maximum height, where Allah is saying that this religion is complete from every aspect. Nothing is left out in it. It is perfect. It is complete, and I have chosen this for you. If Allah is choosing it for you, that means it has to be a complete product. Yet we see the continuous downfall of this religion right after Prophet leaves. As soon as those who are not deserving to be the representative of Rasulullah, they take charge, we see the continuous downfall of this religion. In the first Khilafat, we see actions such as those who are referred to and given the title of Saifullah. Khalid bin Walid, the new Muslims, embrace Islam only after Fatih Makkah, and that too when Prophet said, Antumut tulaqa. You're accepting because you're afraid, you're scared, you have no other choice. Imagine you're in danger, you've been captured. The easy way, the aman for you is to go ahead and embrace the religion. God knows what's in your hearts. So these are the newcomers in this Islam. And they are given these titles such as Saifullah. And they are given the tasks to go ahead and bring or collect the zakat. Because there was a group of people who stopped paying zakat after the death of Rasulullah. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened. But the individual who was trespassed and his family was trespassed, Malik ibn Nuwayra. Go ahead and read the story about it. Khalid bin Walid collecting zakat from Malik ibn Nuwayra. What happened? Such incidents, trespassing the family, killing Malik, and then, doing what he did. All of these things happening, and then Khalifatul Muslimin does not do anything. And we'll connect this point to later on as well. Because a lot of people say, in fact Yazid himself said, he distances himself from this whole event of Karbala. Yazid, when he realizes the mistake that he has made, he's trying to distance himself. What does he say? He says that I only asked, may Allah send his curse upon Ibn Marjana. These are the words of Yazid. He says, La'an Allahu Ibn Marjana. May Allah curse Ibn Marjana, Ibn Ziyad. Why? He said, فَإِنَّهُ أَخْرَجَهُ وَأَثْطَرَّهُ. He is the one who brought Hussein out and made him majboor and coerced him into doing what he did. I was not the one. وَقَدْ كَانَ سَالُ أَنْ يُخَلِّيَ سَبِيلَهُ. I was just telling him to bring him to me. Simple as that. I did not ask him to kill Hussein or to capture his family or any of those things. And then he says, بَلْ أَبَا عَلَيْهِ وَقَتَلَهُ. He did not listen to me and he killed Hussein. فَبَغَّضَنِي بِقَتْلِهِ إِلَى الْمُسْلِمِينَ. and he made me look hated in the eyes of Muslimin with this action of his. وَزَرَعَ لِي فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْعَدَاوَةِ And he planted the seed of adawat and animosity in the hearts of Muslimin for me by doing such an action. Look at how he's distancing himself from this whole incident. فَأَبْغَنَنِي الْبِرُّ وَالْفَاجِرُ بِمَا اسْتَعْظَمَ النَّاسِ مِنْ قَتْلِ حُسَيْنًا مَا لِي وَلَا ابْنَ مَرْجَانَةَ What do I have to do with Ibn Marjana? I have nothing to do with him. Complete denial in the words of Yazid. And the similar thing we see, what the first Khalifa did not take any action against what Khalid bin Walid did. So Islam's downfall continues, where we see that when Amirul Mu'mineen is in power, those 4 years of the Khilafat al-Zahiri of Amirul Mu'mineen, he's busy inside Islamic world, fighting other so-called Muslimin. Nobody raises eyebrows and questions the validity of those who are standing against Amirul Mu'mineen. You say, well, one thing we want to make sure that we understand is cursing is something which is a wrong translation of la'nat. When we say la'nat on someone and we send la'nat on someone, we do not mean we curse. Unfortunately, that is the deficiency of the language, I guess. Because la'nat does not convey the meaning of cursing or swearing upon. That is just not allowed in our religion, regardless of who is standing in front of you. People curse shaitan. Shaitan is throwing arrows towards you, and you're cursing at him. Imagine someone is shooting with a gun towards you, and you're cursing at that person. It's not going to help you, brother. You need to put a shield in front of yourself and guard yourself. Shaitan is throwing arrows, and you're cursing at shaitan. It's not going to do any good. Similarly, you and I are not allowed to curse and use these words, which are not appropriate, even for the biggest of the enemies. La'nat has a total different meaning and connotation. It means that may Allah bring His mercy away from this individual. That's what la'nat's mafhum is. And that is the biggest, swear or curse that you could ever give to someone. May Allah bring His mercy away from that individual. So that person is deprived of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the biggest dua against this individual. And therefore, la'nat is something else, and curse is something else. In fact, we look at in the kalam of, when we're talking about that those people, and some of the people do point fingers saying that you curse these ashab. You recite ziyarat ashura, you recite ziyarat warith, and you're saying lanatullah, and so on and so forth. We're not cursing. This is not curse. This is just asking Allah to remove His mercy from that individual. And that is something which is existing in the kalam of Ilahi Himself. Look at in Quran. Allah curses many people. Min kalam Dawood, min lisan Dawood. Even from the lisan of Hazrat Dawood, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cursing, or again I'm using the same translation, sending la'nat onto some individuals of what they had done. So the concept of la'nat is clear for us. And that's what we have in our ziyarat. It's not literal swearing or cursing at an individual, rather it's with this meaning. And that, yes, we do. Right away there are fatwa of kufr against us. Oh, you are cursing against Jalilul Qadr ashab of Rasulullah. When a person curses against Jalilul Qadr ashab of Rasulullah, and that is not even a curse, again we keep on repeating, it's only a la'nat. You bring that person out of the realm of Islam, that person is no longer considered to be a Muslim. What about those individuals? I'm going to ask a question. If there was Khalifatul Muslimin, if I was to send la'nat upon him, or if I was to wage a war against him, what would be a bigger action? Sending la'nat or waging war against him? Any rationale would say waging a war against that person. You can send la'nat as much as you want to. It's not going to do anything. Waging a war is standing up against Khalifatul Muslimin. This is where we raise a question. Look at all of the people who stood up against Amirul Mu'mineen in his Khilafat Zahiri. We're not even looking at the Imamat of Imam over here, which began the day Rasulullah left this world. We're looking at the Khilafat al-Zahiri from the 36th year of Hijrah up until the 40th year of Hijrah. All of those people who are standing up against Amir al-Mu'mineen in this Khilafat, which you came to the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen begging him to lead. Similarly, the way people of Kufa are begging Imam Hussein to lead. Those people who are standing in front of Imam, you're saying there's nothing wrong with these people? They performed tawbah towards the end. Muawiyah is waging war against Imam Ali. Talha and Zubair are standing against Amir al-Mu'mineen with al-Mu'mineen. And all of these wars that are being waged against Imam Ali. So you name us and label us kafir when we send la'nat, which is to deprive these individuals of the mercy of Allah. But when you see these people in the history, noble people in your eyes, wage war against Amir al-Mu'mineen of the time, you don't curse them. You don't call anything to them. You don't even consider them kafir. Yet you and I, we are considered to be kafir. Salawat beji Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So connecting back to what Yazid said, he's distancing himself. He said, I did not ask Ibn Ziyad to kill. All I had asked him to bring him to me. He performed this action on his own. And this is where some people got this idea that, yes, in fact, he didn't have anything to do with it. Shias, for no reason, are connecting it with Yazid. Yes, he was the Khalifatul Muslimin at that time, but he's not the one who's doing it. Again, just looking at who's in front of Imam Hussein in the battlefield of Karbala. If it's Umar Asad, if it's Shimr, if it's Ibn Ziyad in Kufa, because they're right in front of Imam Hussein, they are considered to be the culprits. Remember what I said. It's not Hurmula who sent that arrow. It's someone who prepared it for him back in Saqifa. And that's why our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu said, وَأَحْيِ بِهِ مَا أَمَاتَهُ الظَّالِمُونَ مِنْ مَعَالِمِ دِينِكَ. Revive what these zalimeen and oppressors have destroyed from the ma'alim, from the teachings of your religion. And Imam Hussein himself is saying, إِنِّي أَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ. I am calling you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِلَى نَبِيِّهِ. And I am calling you towards the Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِنَّ السُنَّةَ قَدْ أُمِيتَتْ. Indeed, the sunnah of Rasulullah has been, has been perished, has been vanished, has been killed, has been destroyed. فَإِن تُجِيبُوا دَعْوَتِي وَتُطِيعُوا أَمْرِي أَهْدِكُمْ سَبِيلَ الرَّشَادِ. Only if you were to follow me, I will lead you to the path which is the path of salvation. Imam himself is saying this. So right away, the question arises, then who killed Imam Hussein? If you're saying Yazid in his own words is saying, I had nothing to do with it, then who is really behind it? He said, those who are weeping for Imam are the ones who killed Imam Hussein. So right away, they're directing the fault towards those who've been weeping. He said, right away, they connect us with Kufa. Well, Kufa, was it not the place where Amir al-Mu'mineen established his capital? Kufa has the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen. These Kufans were the ones who wrote the letters, and then later on they're weeping and crying. And you're children of those Kufans, so therefore you're the ones who killed. Hold on a second. You're calling these Kufans to be all Shia and followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, just the fact that he established his capital over there? Hold on a second. Look in the books of the history. When Amir al-Mu'mineen assumes the Khilafat and he goes towards Kufa, Masjid is packed because no Khalifa has ever come to Kufa. They had all stayed in Medina. But this is a new rhetoric that Imam is saying that I will go towards Kufa. He announces that he's coming to Kufa. The Kufa is prepared because Khalifatul Muslimin is coming. Pay attention, Khalifatul Muslimin is coming. They have no idea who Ali is. And that is apparent from the history as well. Imam is due to come into the masjid, and Imam is due to lead the prayer, and he's due to sit on the mimbar and speak to Muslimin firsthand. Imagine if marja taqleed of the time was to come to Baitul Ilm to give a speech, this place will be overpacked. There won't be any room upstairs either. That's the marja taqleed of the time. Regardless of who, we respect them all. Whoever comes, this place will be packed. This is Khalifatul Muslimin who's making his trip to Kufa for the first time. But they only know Khalifatul Muslimin. They don't know the personality of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They always thought Khalifa would be someone well-dressed, decked with, these gold and silver and whatnot. Well, not gold and silver, but decked with these, clothing and then turban and the asa. Just someone who you look at and say right away, yes, this is the Khalifa. With Jaho, Hasham and all that stuff. But then there's a person who knocks on the shoulder of another individual. Let me go through. He's like, go sit in the back. We've been lined up all morning over here to get this place. Now you want to walk through us? If you have ever attended Jummah prayer in Mecca, you will see how it is. Place is packed. There's no room on the streets for, mile or so. Streets are packed. That's what the scene is when the Jummah is taking place, regardless of how hot it is. And therefore, those who have gone, you see, when you try to, even for regular namaz, if you want to go inside Masjidul Haram, they have these, pointers saying one way only. Now there's no entry. You can't enter inside the masjid after maybe if only 1 hour is left into namaz. So if Salat al-Zuhr is at 1 o'clock, you better make it there by 11:30. Otherwise, you won't be able to get in. Well, it's the Ka'batullah. It's Masjidul Haram. It's not our masajid over here that we have to wait for 5 people to gather so that we can go ahead and perform Salatul Jummah. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this person knocks on like, can I go through? Like, get in the line. We've been lined up all morning to sit and get a better spot so we can see Khalifatul Muslimin. Who is this guy? He knocks on the shoulder again. No, actually, I have to go ahead. He said, who do you think you are? He humbly replies by saying, if I don't go, namaz will not start. Who's this person? He said, no, I am Ali ibn Abi Talib. I have to go through. This is Ali ibn Abi Talib in Kufa, 36 AH. He's knocking on the back of the person to let him through so he can go and lead the prayer. So people recognize Khalifatul Muslimin, not Ali ibn Abi Talib. Don't call all of Kufa to be Shi'ayani Ahl Hadr Qarrar. They're not. This is how Kufa is in the 40th year of Hijrah. Imagine what Kufa will be like in the 60th year of Hijrah. It gets worse. They don't recognize Khalifatul Muslimin the way you're saying. So not all people over there are Shi'ayani Ahl Qarrar. You can't say that Kufans are the ones who are responsible for the killing of Imam Hussein, and they were the ones who were weeping. That is a wrong notion that is given out. And we see that the letters that even Imam is receiving, I mentioned that I will mention some of the mutun and the text of the letters. I don't have time today, but maybe another day. There are different types of letters that Imam Hussein is receiving. Madhmoon of one of the letters says, Imam, the season is good. Wind is blowing. It's almost time for harvest. Come over. Another set of letters says, Imam, we are in need of your leadership. We denounce the leadership of the current Khalifa. Please come and guide us. The first letter is written by people such as, or signed by Hussein ibn Umair, Umar ibn Harith, Umar ibn Hurayth, Shabath ibn Rabi'i, and so on and so forth. The second letter, which is inviting Imam to lead as the Imam, is signed by Sulaiman ibn Surad al-Khuzai, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. These are the individual, Musayyab, these are the individuals who are signing the second letter. So there's groups that are in Kufa as well. Don't blame all of Kufa to be responsible for the killing of Imam Hussein, to overshadow or look over who was the real culprit behind killing of Imam Hussain. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. So those who were responsible, those who defend Yazid, call him radiyallahu anhu today, and try to clear his character and his father's character, exalt him, his rank and his father's rank, they're not responsible. But those who are weeping for the sad occasion, commemorating what has happened to the Mazloom, and standing and bringing their voices next to the voice of Mazloom, they are all of a sudden responsible because they are the ones who are weeping. So the Qaida Kulli, the universal law becomes this. If someone dies, those who are weeping are responsible. Those who are laughing are not responsible. Or according to this criteria. Those who are weeping, let's put the blame on them. And that's what's happening today. You weep for Hussein, your ancestors were the one who killed him. This is what history is now emerging as, the new history. For example, I'll give an example to the kids. You know, these days we're hearing a lot about these shootings in the schools and middle schools and high schools and whatnot. May Allah protect all of the kids over here who are attending these public schools. But you got to be prepared. God forbid something happened the street that you live. Crimes are all around. Someone died in your neighbor. Someone was killed in your neighbor, for example. You say, you know, someone died. Right now, we're speculating who's the killer, who killed him, why, what's the motive. And then the worst media in the world, which is showing us, you know, America at war, America in the state of war, and showing all of these things over one shooting. And then giving out different analysis and whatnot. You say, well, let's go over there, find out who's the killer, who, you know, we'll find out. It's our neighborhood. We go over there, we see that, you know, there's police and everything around. There are obviously some people paying condolences, their families around and whatnot. And there comes out a person weeping and crying from inside the house. You and I are standing over there, and I say to you, this person is the killer. Out of the blue. You say, how do you deduce that? I never challenge your intellect. But this person apparently coming out of the house weeping probably is one of the loved ones. It's very difficult for him to overcome the difficulty of losing a loved one. Because if that was the criteria, then when Hazrat Yusuf was thrown into the well, his father wept for him so many years that Quran says, وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. His eyes, he went blind that he cried so much. Let's blame Hazrat Yaqub for throwing Hazrat Yusuf into the well. Because he was crying all these years. In fact, when he was found, before he was found, his children said, you're still on your zalalik al-qadim, on your old habit of crying and weeping. When are you going to let go of it? In fact, this whole fiasco, this whole chaos has been resolved by an ordinary individual. He was weeping and crying just like you and I weep and cry for Imam Hussein. Someone said to him, why are you crying? He said, we're crying for Hussein. It's mustahab to cry for Hussein. There's a hadith we have, man baka wa tabaki, the one who cries or makes other cry, you know, there are rewards for that individual. Wajaba lahul jannah, and so on and so forth. That's why we're crying. He said, no, you're the ones who are responsible. He said, how? Well, it was your ancestors in Kufa who committed this act. So this ordinary individual, he looked at that person and said, those who killed in Kufa or responsible for killing Imam Hussein were my ancestors? He said, yes. He said, they had nothing to do with you? He said, no. Okay. So if they were my ancestors, if I praise them or send my lanat onto them, you should not have any worries about it, right? But the moment I sent lanat onto them, right away I see your faces frowned. If they were my ancestors, let me deal with them how I want to. Whether I praise them, I choose to praise them, or I choose to curse them. But when I curse them, right away I see this frowning of your faces that leads me to believe that has something to do with you as well. Salawat beji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So there were different qiyams that happened after Karbala. Tawwabin, those who said, we're doing tawbah. And then the qiyam of Mukhtar. All of these qiyams are taking place. You look in the history again. The son of Malik Ashtar, Ibrahim. All of these people, when they stand up to take revenge of the martyrs of Karbala, they had to stand up against these Muslimin of the time. Right away, people started condemning Mukhtar. Go read the narrative about Mukhtar in the history of brothers. Go see how they consider Tawwabin. Go see how they look at Ibrahim ibn Malik Ashtar with a negative mindset, because they stood up against other Muslims and they shed the blood of other Muslims. Right away, if Mukhtar and Malik Ashtar's son or Tawwabin are standing up to take revenge of the blood of Imam Hussein, you start condemning these people. But those who are standing right in front of Imam Hussein and taking his blood, you start protecting their character. You start repairing their character, saying, no, they had nothing to do with it. They themselves in their kalam are saying the same thing. So these are some of the things that I wanted to bring in front of you as far as the historical lessons that we can derive from it. Because life is very important. And history teaches a great deal when it comes to life. I'm running out of my time. I just want to read one hadith in this regards, and inshallah we will wrap it up, and we'll go towards the Masaib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. Please send Allah salawat. That when we were talking about yesterday, the lessons in regards to the reality of the life, which is also related to what we're talking about today, the historical aspect of this whole event. We see that life is very important. And that cannot have been better explained than in this hadith of Rasulullah, in which he's exhorting and he's advising Abu Dhar. He said, Ya Abu Dhar, O Abu Dhar, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمسا. Make sure you avail 5 things before 5 things. Again, the whole hadith, I might not have the time to go in the details of it, just the relevance that we have in this hadith. He said, Shababaka qabla haramik. Your youth years before you lose them and you become old. Sihhataka qabla suqmik. Your health before you become sick. Wa ghinaka qabla faqrik. Your wealth until you become poor or poverty strikes you. وَفَرَاغَكَ قَبْلَ شُغْلِكَ. The time that you have in your hands right now until you become busy. And that is an area which is, need explanation. For example, a lot of time, it is very difficult for us to find time for some of the wajibat even, which is not acceptable. But in this hadith, he's saying, the time that you have, the time that we have in our hands, utilize that time properly. And then وَحَيَاتَكَ قَبْلَ مَوْتِكَ. Your life before death comes upon you. There are at least 3 things in this which are actually interrelated with one another. He said, شَبَابَكَ قَبْلَ هَرَمِكَ. Your shabab, your youth, until you're old. وَحَيَاتَكَ قَبْلَ مَوْتِكَ. Your hayat until you're dead. Why is Prophet mentioning these 2 things separately? Shabab years, youth years, and then the hayat. And then even says, صِحَّتَكَ قَبْلَ سُقْمِكَ. Your sihat until you are sick. We understand that, these youth years are very, very important. Because this is the time when you have the energy. This is the time when you are able to do many things that you will not be able to do when you're old. And that's primarily is the reason when Imam Hussein goes to Karbala, Imam colors his beard. He's 57 years old. Usually when you're on the other side of the 50, the beard, or actually the other side of the 40, the beard starts showing gray hair. And then after 50, it's all white. Imam colors his beard when he goes to Karbala. Why? He said, I don't want my enemy to look at me and feel sympathy towards me. Saying, this is an old man. How am I going to fight an old man? Imam is looking young by coloring his beard. And there are Jawan in the company as well. Among them is a Jawan by the name of Ali Akbar. Tonight, we're going to do the Masaib of Hazrat Ali Akbar. And we look at this Jawan, this youth that is present in Karbala. He's not an ordinary youth, merely 18 years old. And we see this is what Imam Hussein has to say about Ali Akbar. He said, Allahumma, O Allah, ushhud ala ha'ula'il qawm, be a witness on this qawm, on this nation, on these people. فَقَدْ بَرَزَ إِلَيْهِمْ غُلَامٌ أَشْبَهُ النَّاسِ. Indeed, going upon them is a youth who's closest and has the most resemblance in all of mankind, khalqan, as far as his creation is concerned, khulqan, as far as his character is concerned, wa mantiqan, as far as his speech is concerned, bi rasulik. He's the closest among all of mankind, nas, when it comes to speech, character, and the looks. He resembles Rasulullah completely, entirely. Not just the face features, but the character and also the way he speaks. It reminds us of Rasulullah. And Imam said towards the end, وَكُنَّا إِذَا اشْتَقْنَا. And whenever we wanted to do the ziyarat إِلَى نَبِيِّكَ نَظَرَنَا إِلَى وَجْهِهِ. Whenever we wanted to do the ziyarat of our Prophet, we would look at this Jawan and this young man. This is how Imam ﷺ is explaining the features of Hazrat Ali Akbar. We see that the tragedy is so severe that when all of the companions have given their sacrifices, Imam ﷺ at this moment asks the Jawanan Banu Hashim, and among them, the first of the martyrs, as far as some of the historical facts mention, is Hazrat Ali Akbar. In fact, he's the only individual. Whenever someone came to Imam and asking for permission, Imam, can I go and sacrifice myself? Imam would think about it, although everybody had to go. But Imam would delay it. Imam would pause. He would stop them. He will say things, how can I let you go? To some of it, we recited the Masayib of Hazrat Qasim and Hazrat Abbas in the previous 2 nights. Whenever these two came to Imam, what did Imam say? How can I let you go? You're the last, memory of my brother, O Qasim. He turned him down. When the time came for Hazrat Abbas, who's asking Imam, can I go? He said, Abbas, you're Sahib al-Liwa'i, you're the, standard bearer, you're the flag bearer. You're my Sipa Salar, how can I let you go? In other words, Imam is looking for excuses to stop these people from going and sacrificing. But when Ali Akbar wants to go, different riwayat. I'll mention one set of riwayat and then the second set. When Ali Akbar wants to go, Imam said, Taqaddam waladi. Go ahead, my son. He did not even think twice. Did not even pause once. Did not say, oh, how can I let you go? Did not say, don't go. Did not say, wait for a minute. Wait a while. There's still time. No. The other set of riwayat says that Imam actually called upon his son himself. Oh, Ali Akbar, it's time for you to go. One riwayat says Ali Akbar came asking Imam for permission. Imam said, Taqaddam. Go ahead. Another riwayat says Imam himself, after all the ashab had gone, calls upon Ali Akbar. Ali Akbar, it's your turn. The only person for whom Imam did not pause for a second when he's giving him the permission. I'm sure there are a lot of people sitting over here who have sons who are 18 years old. There are mothers over here who have sons 18 years old. There are sisters over here who have brothers 18 years old. Just imagine losing someone at that prime age. And not just an ordinary person according to Imam Hussein is saying, ashbahun nas, the most resemblance who had as far as Rasulullah was concerned with Rasulullah. There's no one who we could compare. And whenever we wanted to do the ziyarat of Rasulullah, we would look at Ali Akbar. But here comes the time. Deen Muhammad is in need of the sacrifice of Ali Akbar. I will go through it very quickly as I have run out of my time. That Ali Akbar, when he wants to go, Imam has given him the permission. But Imam said, go to the tents of the ladies and get permission or bid farewell to them as well. Ali Akbar is raised in the arms of Janab Zainab, son of Layla, but raised in the arms of Janab Zainab. These ladies have haqq upon you. Go bid farewell to them. Maqatil mentioned how Ali Akbar entered into the tent, bidding farewell to all of these ladies. And when he wants to come out, it says 7 times the curtain was lifted. Ali Akbar wanted to come out, and then he went back in. 7 times. He would want to exit, the veil would be lifted, he'd come out, then someone will pull him back in. Then he would want to come out, then someone will pull him back in by his shirt. In fact, inside the tent, what is happening? Zainab is looking at Ali Akbar from top to bottom. Zainab is looking at Ali Akbar from head to toe. This Jawan that I had raised for today. He said, but oh Ali Akbar, if Hussein is in need, if Deen Muhammad is in need, hundreds of Ali Akbar will be qurban on the religion. Nothing is bigger than this deen, nothing is bigger than Hussein. Ali Akbar says, let me go. My father is by himself. He's in need. He asked me to come inside this tent. Ravi says, yes, Ali Akbar wanted to come out, but someone was pulling him from his shirt. And he said, I cannot understand as to if there was an adult who wanted to pull him, it would be from the shoulder. But the fact that someone was pulling his shirt means it had to be someone who was young. And this is where they mention it might have been the young sister, Janab Sakina. Oh Bhaiya, oh Ali Akbar, what will we do after you? And then the final bidding of the final farewell for Ali Akbar, all the ladies said, oh Ali Akbar. They stood in this circle and they asked Ali Akbar to pass through this. All of the ladies are looking at Ali Akbar for one last time. Eventually he comes out of the tent with such difficulty. He comes to his father who prepares him for this battle, situates him, sets him down onto the horse, gives him everything of Rasulullah. Remember, Ali Akbar is someone ashbahun nas, khalqan wa khuluqan wa mantaqan bi rasulik. Puts him down and bids him farewell. But as soon as he said, Khuda Hafiz to Ali Akbar, Ali Akbar is on his way to Maqtal, he hears someone walking behind him. He turns around and he sees his old father walking after Ali Akbar. He says, oh Mawla, did you not just give me permission to go into the Maqtal and now you're coming after me? Those who have children, I don't know if you can take these words of Imam Hussein. Imam replied by saying, oh Ali Akbar, if you were married and if you had kids of your own, you would realize how difficult it is for me to let go of you in this way. Ajrukum Allah. May Allah give you no grief except the grief of Ahlul Bayt. A few more sentences that Ali Akbar goes towards Maqtal. Like every other shaheed, he recites the rajas. He mentions who he is. He actually gives them a permission. He actually tells them to come towards the deen of Rasulullah and to abide with what Imam Hussein is saying. All of the shuhada, before they engaged into battle, they invited these people, come back to the path of Hussein, come back and join Hussein. But obviously there was no reply in the positive manner. Ali Akbar performed the fight. He put on a fight in a way that thousands of the kuffar were sent to the Jahannam. But this is where, imagine 3 days he has not had any sip of water. 3 days he has not eaten anything. And in this way, in the heat of that desert, he's got the shield upon himself and he has gone towards Maqtal. But then he says, after fighting for a little while, he comes back to Mawla saying, Baba, if you have some water, give me some water. I will put on another fight that these kuffar will see who Ali Akbar is. Imam Hussein said, oh my son, if you want, you can put your tongue on my tongue. He does that and he pulls it right back saying, oh my father, your tongue is even drier than mine. Eventually Imam gives him his ring saying, put this on your mouth. It might give you some comfort, but don't worry. In a few moments, you will be given water from Saqi Kauthar. Your grandfather will give you water and your thirst will be quenched. Ali Akbar makes his way out again. He goes out. He performs another fight. He battles against these kuffar. But eventually when they had gathered them all around, they started striking Ali Akbar from all around. And then there came a dagger right onto the chest of Ali Akbar. He comes down from his horse and then he did not call upon Imam Hussein to come for his help. Rather he said, my last salam, ya bacha, receive my last salam, O Hussein. Imam Hussein, hearing that from his young son, gets up, this old father, and tumbling over, running towards Maqtal to hold on to his son. Ala lanatullah al-qawm al-zalimin. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. May Allah accept our ibadah tonight. O Allah, we have done a lot of sins. Please forgive our sins. O Allah, deal with us with your mercy on the day of judgment and not with your